These songs do not sound alike. They do not feel alike. They do not move alike. They are not built from the same material. They are not shaped by the same traditions. They are not reaching for the same emotional space. The only thing they share is the fact that they are electronic tracks released by girl groups in K-pop in the same season.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Before diving into this comparison itself, I want to be transparent about where I'm coming from, because my perspective shapes the way I hear both of these songs. I understand that. I followed SSERAFIM since the Unforgiven era, and while I appreciate the ambition behind Celebration, it doesn't sit near the top of their catalog for me. It isn't a track I dislike, but it also isn't one that pulls me in the way some of their more distinctive experiments do. Even Spaghetti, which is far from my personal favorite, engages me more on a stylistic and musical level. So I'm not approaching this as someone who believes SSERAFIM can do no wrong, or that every release is a triumph. I'm approaching it as someone who enjoys the group, pays attention to their evolution, and has a clearer sense of what resonates with me. Now, my relationship with BLACKPINK is at least similar in its nuance. I wouldn't call myself a devoted fan, but I followed them since about a year after Born Pink, and I've grown to appreciate them more through their solo work than, let's say, their group output. Their last album didn't land for me, but it also didn't offend me. I'm not invested in rivalry narratives or fan-driven comparisons. I like both groups. I follow both groups. And I'm interested in the music more than I'm interested in the mythology. But that's why the current discourse around Celebration and BLACKPINK's Go caught my attention. Not because I'm trying to pit the groups against each other, but because the comparison itself reveals something about how people listen or don't listen when it comes to electronic production in K-pop. Celebration just came out today. The conversation has been very loud and fast, but not particularly accurate. And that's what I want to unpack. The moment Celebration dropped, a certain corner of the internet rushed to declare it a BLACKPINK imitation. The logic was simple. Both songs are high energy, both lean electronic, both are girl group releases arriving in the same season. Therefore, one must be copying the other. But that argument collapses the second you stop reacting to the vibe and start listening to the actual construction of the music. The architecture, it tells a different story. The drums tell a different story. The synths tell a different story. The mix tells a different story. The emotional intention tells a different story. The only thing these tracks share is closeness in BPM and branding. Everything else diverges the moment you actually pay attention. So, let's start with BLACKPINK's Go. This song is a big room EDM and festival trap hybrid shaped by YG's long-established production identity. The kick is wide, the sub is heavy, it fills the entire floor of the mix. Even the snare placement creates this halftime swing that gives the track its quintessential swagger. The synths rely on supersaws and thick risers, chunky leads that explode outward, and the drop is engineered for weight. The whole thing is built to feel massive. The vocals sit on top of the instrumental like a spotlight. That song is designed for a stadium's worth of bodies moving in unison to a beat that hits like a hammer. It wants to dominate the space it occupies. Now, compare that to SSERAFIM's Celebration. This track is built from a completely different lineage. It draws from melodic techno and hardstyle. These are two genres that prioritize speed, lift, and hypnotic repetition. The kick is clipped and punchy. The percussion never relaxes into swagger. The synths are shimmery and pulsating instead of roaring. and the mix is very clean and vertical. The vocals, instead of sitting on top, above the instrumental, are woven into the beat. The emotional intention here is joy and release. It's a track that's not trying to flex, it's trying to carry you, it's not trying to hit you, it's trying to move you. In my opinion, the difference is not subtle. It's clearly audible because it's structural. Even the drum programming in these songs tell you how they're not related. Go uses halftime trap patterns. They swing between tension and drop. The rhythm is supposed to breathe. It pauses. It creates space for attitude. Celebration uses a continuous hardstyle pulse that never breaks stride. The beat is relentless. It's forward driving. It's built for motion. One track, it's about swagger. The other, it's about speed. One is heavy. The other is limber and fast. One is built for festival stages, and one is built for a rave floor. These are not interchangeable ideas at their highest level. Okay, the synth design widens the gap for me even further. Go leans on those supersaws I mentioned, that big room EDM texture that completely fills the stereo field. The sound is thick, it's muscular. Celebration uses plucky leads, rave stabs, and high-frequency shimmer pads that create this sense of vertical lift. The sound instead is clean and aerodynamic. One set of synths is designed to overwhelm, the other is designed to elevate. And then there's the mixing. Go is mixed like a weapon. The bass occupies a huge amount of the space. The drops are engineered to feel heavy. The vocals are pushed to the front. The track is meant to feel like an event. Celebration is mixed like a dance track. The bass is tight, it's punchy. The vocals sit inside the instrumental rather than above it. The goal is clarity and motion. The track is meant to feel like a release. So why do casual listeners insist on collapsing these songs into the same category? I believe it's because most people don't hear EDM as a constellation of subgenres. They hear it as a monolithic sound. They hear a 4-on-the-floor beat and a bright synth and assume everything belongs to the same family. They don't distinguish between big room, techno, hardstyle, trap, house, or trance. They don't listen to kick shape or synth architecture and assume sameness. It's the same logic that makes people say all rock sounds the same or all rap sounds the same. And that's not analysis. It's just pattern recognition at its most superficial. Okay, there's also a branding issue. BLACKPINK is widely understood as the group most associated from a K-pop perspective with EDM. So when another girl group releases an EDM-coded track, people jump to conclusions. But SSERAFIM has been EDM-leaning since debut. Jersey Club, UK Garage, Latin EDM fusions, hyperpop textures, they've always lived in the electronic space. So Celebration from a branding perspective is also not a pivot, it's definitely a continuation. And it's a continuation executed with a level of genre specificity that casual listeners simply don't have the vocabulary to recognize. So here's the irony. The people making the comparison aren't wrong about the energy. Both songs are built for performance. Both songs are built for movement. Both songs are built for spectacle. But energy is not a genre. BPM is not a genre. Loudness is not a genre. Architecture matters. The drums matter. The synths matter. The emotional intention matters. And once you understand those things, the comparison between Go and Celebration evaporates. What remains is a simple truth. These songs do not sound alike. They do not feel alike. They do not move alike. They are not built from the same material. They are not shaped by the same traditions. They are not reaching for the same emotional space. The only thing they share is the fact that they are electronic tracks released by girl groups in K-pop in the same season. Almost everything else is different. And if someone can't hear that, the problem is definitely not inherently the music. It's the listener and their own personal ability to discern. So I guess that is where I land with all of this. I started by saying I don't love Celebration, and that's still true, though the song just came out. I've only listened to it a dozen times. That could change. But I do think it's fair to say that it's probably not the track that reshapes my understanding of SSERAFIM or pushes them into new territory in a way that particularly sticks out to me. And I've said the same thing, of course, about BLACKPINK's recent Deadline release. I've seen both of them perform live, so I paid money for both of their concerts. I've spent time watching all of these members in different types of variety content. I've watched interviews. I've listened to their full discographies. I'm probably more closely aligned to understanding the members and their characters a little bit more closely from the SSERAFIM end, but I'm not here as a diehard for either group. I'm here because I care about, and like for the most part, the music itself. I'm here because I care about how we talk about it and talk about music. And I care about the difference between reacting to a vibe and actually listening to what a song is doing. What frustrates me about the discourse isn't that people have preferences, it's that the conversation, especially in K-pop, tends to be flattened into something so shallow that it stops being about the songs at all. When we reduce two completely different productions to they sound the same, we're not engaging with the music, we're engaging with branding, with assumptions, with the easiest possible version of listening. And that does a disservice not just to the artists, but to the songwriters, the composers, the arrangers, and the mixers, and to ourselves as listeners. Because the more you pay attention to how these tracks are built, the more interesting the landscape actually becomes. I don't need to love Celebration to recognize what it's doing, and I don't need to be a BLACKPINK fan to understand the lineage behind Go. What I need, what we all need, is a willingness to hear beyond the surface, to notice the architecture, to understand the choices, to recognize that electronic music is not a single genre, but an entire ecosystem. And again, once you do that, the comparison falls apart. Not because one group is better than the other, not because one group did something first, but because they're simply not making the same thing. So if there's a takeaway here, I think it's this. You don't have to love the song. You don't have to hate it. You don't have to pick a side. But if you're going to talk about it, at least listen to what's actually there. The music deserves that much. And I do believe, honestly, so do the artists.
Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school. So you can feel cool. Give